On a freezing January night in Canton, Massachusetts, Karen Reed drove her SUV through the swirling snow. Her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, sitting beside her. It was late, just after midnight, when they pulled up outside 34 Fairview Road, a home filled with off-duty officers and friends gathering for a quiet night that would soon turn infamous. Karen says she dropped John off there, watched him walk toward the house through the storm, and then drove away. But what happened next has unraveled into one of the most divisive and scrutinized criminal cases in the country. Hours later, John's lifeless body was found in the snow outside the same house, bruised, bloodied, and alone. Prosecutors say Karen struck him with her vehicle in a drunken rage. Karen insists she's being framed, pointing to a cover-up involving law enforcement, alleging that those inside 34 Fairview know the truth and they buried it. Today, the crucial cross-examination of one of the most important witnesses for the defense, Jennifer McCabe. The woman Karen Reed believes knew John O'Keefe was dying on the front yard hours before he was actually found. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And the coverage of this case, for those of us on television, streaming online, anywhere where you talk about this case, you've got to be careful, because both sides are very passionate about what they believe happened here, and both sides will let you know what they think about what happened here, and they'll let you know what they think about what you're saying. I've heard it from both sides throughout my coverage of this over the course of years now, and it's my job to take a look at the arguments, the evidence, question things, and in this case, I'm really questioning both sides of all of this. So tonight, I want to start here. The defense and Karen Reed have alleged a conspiracy and a cover-up, and these are some of the people they believe are involved in all of that, right? So when you allege something like that, you don't have a burden to prove it inside of a courtroom. But you are saying that's what actually happened here. And it's based upon a series of things that they uncovered and evidence that they believe supports all of that. Well, on the other side, there's evidence that supports Karen Reed is guilty of this as well, okay? So the question is, and I think one of the questions you have to think about when evaluating whether or not this was or was not a conspiracy is, what about the incriminating evidence against Karen Reed? Is that something that is just a coincidence, or is that something that the folks involved in the conspiracy knew about or knew would happen? And there's three particular things I like to talk about. First, like, Karen Reed had a broken tail light. She said she had a broken tail light that morning. She has said that in television interviews. We have heard it. She has talked about having a broken tail light. Did the people in the conspiracy know that Karen Reed was going to say that she had a broken tail light and that she actually had a broken tail light? Did they know that? At what point? Or is that just a coincidence that helps their conspiracy? Second one, did they know that Karen Reed argued with John O'Keefe in the car? And there's been an admission that they had been going back and forth. We've seen the text messages during the day. Everything seems to be fine at the waterfall and at C.F. McCarthy's. But I've heard from her talking about, in television interviews again, talking about having a disagreement. And then we heard the messages afterwards, almost immediately after she leaves, where it's clear that there is something going on. Now, did the folks in the conspiracy know about that? Is that why they chose Karen Reed to frame her? Because they knew there was a fight? Or is that a coincidence? Finally, the statement, "Did I hit him?" Whether she said I hit him or did I hit him, the first person to ever talk about whether or not Karen Reed might be involved and her car may have struck John O'Keefe is Karen Reed herself. Again, I've seen it in the TV interviews. I don't have to listen to what the witnesses are saying. I heard it from her. So did the folks who are part of this conspiracy know that she was going to say that the next day? Or is that just, again, a coincidence? I think these are three important things to really think about when evaluating whether or not there was a conspiracy here, which is part of, but not entirely, what this case is about. Ultimately, this case is about prosecutors proving all of the elements of the crimes they've charged beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense doesn't have to prove a conspiracy, but they've alleged it. And it's part of the story, it's part of the case, so I think it's fair to analyze it and take a look at it and think about that and keep that in your mind as you evaluate all these witnesses who are coming up to testify, including Jennifer McCabe, who's alleged to be part of this conspiracy. So let's talk about what happened today, because it was a huge day. Every day's a huge day in this case. Jennifer McCabe on the stand being cross-examined. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson joining us live from outside the courthouse in Dedham tonight. Okay, I want to start here because I've noticed, and I think we talked about it last night, we both noticed a difference in Jennifer McCabe's demeanor this year versus last year. Everything, to me, feels a little softer. Different. What about that? And Alan Jackson was questioning her about that today, wasn't he?
Yeah, this was a big difference that a lot of the courties are noticing online, and not just with Jen McCabe, but also Carrie Roberts came across as a little bit softer. But let's talk about this star witness that was on the stand today. For a second day in a row, we have Jen McCabe, a key witness, that was called to testify, and today we finally got into the cross-examination, and defense attorney Alan Jackson pointing out a shorter direct testimony than the first trial, and also a softer tone when she's on the stand. Here's what was said. Take a listen.
Was there any discussion about crafting your testimony in any way to suggest a softer approach?
No.
Did Mr. Brennan take you through a series of questions, for instance, as almost a test run of questions that you might be asked either on direct examination or cross-examination?
No.
Were there any sessions where you sat and was subjected to a cross-examination, like a fake cross-examination or a fake direct examination?
No, there
Anything
wasn't.
like that?
No.
So it's interesting that he addressed that right away, Alan Jackson, in his cross. And the cross isn't over. Last year, she was on the stand for 3 days of testimony in the middle of the trial. This one is early on in the retrial, and she's going to be back on cross come Friday. Tomorrow's dark. And Alan Jackson informed the court that he plans to have her on the stand for another 2 hours of questioning. As for Hank Brennan, he said about 20 minutes for redirect.
And, you know, that questioning about whether or not you, like, if she answered, yeah, we did sit down and we did do this, it would have an impact. The fact that she said no, this jury is in a much different place than everyone who's watching online, everyone who's watching on TV, and different than us. Like, we saw her last year and we saw her this year, but this jury is only seeing the 2025 version of Jen McCabe. So, now, it was interesting. A lot of times you ask a witness, what did you see? It seems part of the cross was, Jennifer McCabe, what didn't you see that night?
Yeah, what did you see? What didn't you see? And what didn't you hear? So here's what she was talking about on the stand today, if we're going to compress it. So Jen McCabe testifies that she could see Karen Reed's SUV in front of the yard a few times, not as many times as she testified to during the first trial. And she could see those tire marks of someone turning around in the dusting across the street at 34 Fairview. What she could not see, however, was a 6'2" man standing, sitting, or lying in the yard next to the flagpole. And she couldn't hear a crash, and she couldn't hear if anyone was hurt or screaming. Listen to this.
At no time during any of this interaction with the door, meaning going back and forth to the storm door, texting, looking outside, seeing the SUV in position 1, seeing the SUV in position 2, seeing the SUV in position 3, at no time did you hear any noise that was unusual, did you?
No, I didn't.
You didn't hear any screaming?
No.
You didn't hear any yelling?
No.
No loud voices?
No.
No foul language?
No.
You didn't hear a door slam?
No.
You didn't hear a verbal argument or a fight of any kind?
No.
You didn't hear a revving engine?
No.
You didn't hear the squealing of tires or the scraping of tires on the pavement?
No.
You didn't hear a collision take place?
No.
Or a crash?
No.
Or screams for help?
No.
Moaning, groaning, as if someone was in distress?
No.
You also previously indicated that you saw tire tracks in the roadway.
Yes.
In that very, very light dusting of snow, the accumulation that you talked about, you saw tire tracks of some sort.
Yes.
So that's down on the ground, beyond the yard, somewhere in the roadway.
In the street, correct.
And Vinnie, she also testified once she went inside 34 Fairview in the early morning hours when everything is dark outside and they discover John O'Keefe. She goes into her sister's house, goes up the stairs, into her sister's bedroom. This year, she doesn't testify that she burst into the room and started screaming. This year, she testifies that she woke them up, but she didn't see a dog in the house and she didn't hear Chloe either.
Huh. That's interesting. I'll tell you, this was the most effective part of the cross-examination, probably the most important part of the cross-examination, because people are looking out the window, and if you're looking out to where the SUV was, you have to look past where the body is, because the testimony is going to be clear that this SUV backed up into John O'Keefe, which would be the so-called tire tracks that she says she sees. So she's going to see the tire tracks, but not the body right in front of the tire tracks. That doesn't make common sense to me. I think that's a problem. I think if the jury doesn't believe one thing that you say, they may tend to question a lot of what you say. So I think that was very, very effective there. There's another big part of Jen McCabe's testimony, which is her and her now friend, Kerry Roberts, seemingly, comparing notes before giving their formal statements in this case. What did Jen McCabe say about all of that?
Yeah, she testified to that in trial number 1, and so did Kerry Roberts. The fact that they are now friends, they were not before. And just a few days after John O'Keefe was discovered dead or dying on the lawn at 34 Fairview, they got together and they decided to map out their timeline of events. And today, that was a big topic in the cross-examination. Listen to this.
You wanted to find out if she had talked to these particular law enforcement officers and what she had told them so that your story could somehow align or it could inform how you responded to questions that they asked you. Isn't that true?
That's not true. We both know what happened. We don't have to have a story. There's nothing more than me calling and saying, hey, did they come to your house? That's what we did when the media showed up, when Miss Reed's private investigator showed up. We just give each other the heads up, hey, somebody's coming, because we're just like normal moms. We're not used to this.
Yeah, that comment also stood out to a lot of people when she ended her statement by saying, we're just normal moms. We're not used to all of this. But she has testified in front of a grand jury. She's also given multiple police statements, and she also testified during last year's high-profile trial. And as to how often they do speak, they've become friends. Remember, Kerry Roberts testified last week that Jen McCabe called her before her testimony that morning and said good luck.
Yeah, these communications are not great when you have witnesses in a case who are telling each other their stories and comparing notes, putting together a timeline together. That's not good. You don't want that as a prosecutor. Trust me, you don't want that as a prosecutor. Doesn't mean that they did something wrong, but it has the appearance of perhaps doing something wrong, which again, you put together with some of the other parts of the cross-examination could be very problematic. Anything from Karen Reed today after court?
Right. You know, last year during trial number 1, we were able to get comments before the cross-examinations or after for particular witnesses with the defense team. They would speak. This year, as you know, they're under a gag order, so it's just Karen Reed able to speak to the media. Yesterday, she told me that she has nothing to say to this witness, her former friend Jen McCabe. Today, here's what she said about her testimony. Take a listen.
What do you think today, Karen? About
Karen, how did Jen McCabe
Another
do?
witness, another instance of perjury, or instances, I'd say.
How do you feel about her change in demeanor?
Change in demeanor? I didn't
From
notice.
the last trial.
I did not notice.
How did you feel about
Karen, did you tell Jen to make that Google search that morning at 6:23?
I did not. I did not tell Jen to make a Google search. I certainly didn't tell her to make the one at 227 either.
What stood out to you most today?
We know all the details. We know all the changes in statements. It's just what will her reaction be? And it's just more of the same. Inconsistencies. Every statement's different. Under oath, not under oath. With the cops are all wrong. This is very similar to what we saw a year ago.
Do you think that she colluded with Carrie Roberts?
Why is she so inconsistent?
Because she's lying.
Do you think she
That's
colluded?
it. Thank you.
Do you think she colluded with Carrie Roberts?
There was influencing going on.
And that was the answer to my question. There was something going on, and then she ended that little gaggle right there. They went straight back to their hotel where they have their war room in place. They have this extra day of prep before wrapping up their cross-examination of this all-important witness, really the key to the house long to die in the cold. We haven't even got there. We're expecting to hear that cross-examination on Friday, Vinnie.
And I'm sure they appreciate the day to prepare to finish that cross-examination. Matt Johnson in Dedham, Massachusetts. Great reporting as always. Thank you, Matt. Let's bring in our think tank live in studio tonight. Criminal defense attorney, entertainment attorney, former assistant state attorney in Miami-Dade County, and former assistant in DA in Atlanta. He's had a great career, Daryl Cohen, and he's still going. Criminal defense attorney, law professor Meg Strickler, and criminal defense attorney, the man behind the glasses, Josh Schiffer. Okay, Meg, I just want to go to you.
Yes.
The interviews by Karen Reed after court really helped the defense.
Oh, she's so wonderful, isn't she? She's so palatable. Don't you think? Like, if I'm a juror...
Why do you think they're doing it?
I have no
idea.
Shut her up.
You do, Daryl.
Shut her up.
I think it's a mistake, but she's likely not going to testify. And in effect, when she's being interviewed, she's testifying, but not subject to cross-examination.
Okay, let's do this. I want to play for you some testimonies from Jennifer McCabe, because a big deal has been made about Jennifer McCabe and Carrie Roberts getting together, putting together their timeline. Take a listen.
At some point, did you get together with Miss Roberts and try to memorialize what you had saw or thought that morning?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Peg had asked Carrie to do a timeline, so Carrie came over and we were sitting down talking about it, and so my sister was there and she said that she would jot it down for us.
And so when you got together, it was at the request of Mrs. O'Keefe?
Yes.
Okay, so John O'Keefe's mother, Peggy O'Keefe, who didn't testify in the first trial, testified in this trial, is the one directing the witnesses in this case to get together and put together a timeline. Is that a problem, Josh, for prosecutors that the victim's mom is directing two crucial witnesses in the case to get together before you talk to police and get your timeline together?
It absolutely depends on how it lands with the listener. In one way, I look at that and go, hey, collusion, cooperation, pre-planning. That's the entryway to lying, and we shouldn't have that, and it's wrong, and you should tell the jury, and the jury should go, ooh, that's crooked. At the other time, it's just basic witness prep. You care. This is your son. Your child's case.
Right. Now, I don't think she was up to anything nefarious,
Exactly.
Mrs. O'Keefe. She was looking for what happened to my son.
Exactly.
Well, they didn't do a very good job keeping their statements consistent, though. They just come off as very catty women, all of them, Karen Reed included. All of three of them remind me of 7th grade in not a good way.
I don't see any problem with mom directing them how to say it, but not what to say. And I think that's a big difference.
Right. Well, she's basically saying, listen, you two were there. Write down and put together a timeline of what happened here. And I get it from the victim's perspective. Like, you're not an investigator, but if you go to like a car accident or anything, the first thing they do is separate the witnesses.
Always.
So no one's recollection of something is tainted by someone else's recollection.
And also, in your scenario, you realize that almost all, if you have 3 people see an accident, all 3 stories will be slightly different. It's just perception. It's just nature of perception.
And not only is there the different perception of 3 people seeing the exact same thing, there's refreshing that recollection. That's encouraged by our evidence code. You get to use
just
those
give me a
things.
number, 0 to 10. How damaging is this? 10 is this undermines Kerry Roberts and Jennifer McCabe's testimony. 0 doesn't do much at all.
How does the jury perceive it? If they think
Are you being like Miss McCabe and not answering the question as asked?
Absolutely not answering the question. How the jury perceives it. If they think it was orchestrated,
asked for a number.
I get it, and I'll get there. But after that, it depends. I think it's not that damaging if a juror
I'm
likes
going to assign you a 5.
That's in the middle. You sound like my daughter.
I'm going to go with 5 as well.
5?
Keep it succinct.
I'm going to say it's not damaging that much. Like, it's out there.
And again, no
2.
number.
2.
2. Okay, thank you. How hard? I just asked for a number. All right. When we come back, did Jennifer McCabe lie to the FBI? We'll take a look at that. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates the true crime mystery that captivated the nation and will be the biggest trial of 2025, the Idaho student murders. New details about the surviving roommates and the discovery of the victims. Tonight, we investigate the chaos in the house the morning after.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan investigates tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was brave. We know who did it.
The Karen Reed Murder Retrial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
You were contacted by another law enforcement agency that was not Massachusetts State Police and not Canton Police Department at one point in April of 2023. Do you remember that?
Yes.
During the course of that interview, those officers informed you very specifically, Ms. McCabe, that it is a crime to lie to them, even during an interview, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's obviously the setup. That's Alan Jackson cross-examining Jennifer McCabe. And Jennifer McCabe was approached by another law enforcement agency. This is the awkward, bizarre part of what's going on here. It's the FBI, okay? It's the FBI, but they're not allowed to say it's the FBI. Why? Because they don't want the jury to know the truth. What is the jury's job in a trial? To figure out the truth. So we shield the truth from the jury to help them figure out the truth. That's like last year when the ARCA experts were testifying, the jury discounted their testimony because they didn't know where they came from, because they were trying to shield the jury from the truth. I'm sorry. Let me get off my soapbox. Take a listen to more of this testimony.
They walked up to your car?
Yes.
Okay, that was the very first introduction, correct?
Yes.
At that point, they had not identified themselves, correct?
They didn't know.
All right, and at that point, you told them that you were not Jennifer McCabe. They asked you who you were, and you said, I'm Nicole.
I thought they were like selling something, so I was like, oh no, I'm not the homeowner.
Fair enough, fair enough. However, after you said, I'm not Jennifer McCabe, you walked into the house, they then called you on the phone.
Yes,
They were
correct.
still, at that point, they identified themselves as being law enforcement agents, correct?
When they called me, yes.
And they told you at that time that they were not with Canton Police. You knew at least they were not with Canton Police Department. They were not troopers with Massachusetts State Police, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And they told you that they would like to have an interview with you. They'd like to have a sit-down talk with you, correct?
Yes.
You told them that you would be willing to submit to an interview, but you needed about 10 minutes to get ready, correct?
Yes.
During the course of your interview, your husband, Matt McCabe, came home. Is that right?
Yes.
As these law enforcement agents continued to question you, as law enforcement officers continue to question you at some point, you informed them that you did not feel comfortable with any further questioning and you suspended the interview, correct?
Yes.
Before leaving, however, those same law enforcement officers asked you if you had contacted anyone in those 10 minutes when you indicated, I need 10 minutes to get ready, between the time they called you and the time that they showed up and came inside your house, correct?
Yes.
You told them that you had contacted your husband, Matt McCabe.
Yes.
Which is why he came home, right?
Yes.
And you told them that you had called Carrie Roberts before they interviewed you, correct? At that moment.
I'm not 100% sure, but if you have it, I'll... It seems like something I would do, but if you have it, could show me.
They asked you, was there anyone else that you contacted in that 10-minute period before we got a chance to talk to you? Mm-hmm. And your answer was no, correct?
Correct.
And that was a lie, correct?
It wasn't a lie, no.
Was it true? Was it the truth or a lie?
It wasn't a lie.
Okay, so it was the truth. You had not spoken to any other person between the time they contacted you telephonically and you said, I need 10 minutes. Well, let me ask you this. In point of fact, you did talk to other people. You contacted others, in addition to Matt McCabe and Carrie Roberts, correct? Yes or no?
Yes, I did. I had said no because I was in a situation where there are two officers from a different agent had come in, were asking me questions, or they had said, can I come in and ask you questions? At first, I thought they were selling something. Then they identified themselves. I just dropped my kids off at school. Going to be completely honest, I hadn't brushed my teeth. So I kind of made some phone calls.
Your Honor. You ultimately called these officers back, correct?
Yes.
And you explained to them that you had been untruthful with them, correct?
I explained that I had forgotten to mention a couple of people that I had reached out to.
You had forgotten. Let's go through them. I'm just asking yes or no. You know them?
I know 4 off the top of my head.
Okay, let's go through them.
Okay.
You contacted your husband, correct?
Yes.
You contacted Carrie Roberts, correct?
Yes.
You contacted Peggy O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
Then, Ms. McCabe, you contacted the district attorney's office, correct?
My witness advocate.
The district attorney's office.
My witness advocate who works for the district attorney's office.
Thank you, Ms. McCabe.
Yes.
And you also left out that you contacted Brian Albert himself, correct?
Yes, my brother-in-law.
For some reason, your brother-in-law, who's the 30-year Boston police detective, correct?
Yes.
And on whose lawn John O'Keefe was found dead or dying. Objection.
I'll allow that.
Correct?
Yes.
For some reason, you did not want these officers to know that you had communicated specifically with Brian Albert, the homeowner, just before you talked to them, correct?
Based on this questioning, because they're not told the real story. They've the jury.
Well, it's not only the questioning, it's the manner in which it's or defense. I would never have an attitude toward a witness who can very well may think that she's being beat up by Al Jackson.
Okay, but what do they think about who's calling up the DA's office? She's calling up Brian Allen. The going on here.
There's no way a juror can watch that exchange and go, oh, she's fully and completely independent. She has shown herself to have the connections, to be looking out for something. Was it nailed down 100%? No. Why would someone lie?
Well, why are we lying to the jury and not telling them the truth?
Well, why did
That's
you
what
not
I'm most
answer?
troubled about.
I agree.
Why are we not telling the jury that it's the FBI that showed up?
Oh, because by showing the jury that they're not being told everything, you're building reasonable
the defense to have this. Last time it wasn't. They discounted the ARCA experts because they couldn't figure out where they came from.
Yeah.
Are they going to discount this because they have no idea who's there? If it's the Canadian Mounties?
Nobody thinks that it's the game warden coming by and talking about the murder.
Not getting all of the information.
Not getting the information.
And then, like Darryl said, the cross-examination is not being succinct. They might get lost, and therefore the whole thing gets discounted. You're absolutely right.
I don't understand why the FBI is not, they're not telling them it was the FBI.
Oh.
And in my view, the more you hide from a jury, the more they question what's going on.
But you
and
know
they throw up their hands.
You know that's Commonwealth or State Prosecutor 101. Oh, don't do anything that could be held against us. We don't want to hurt a victim by showing that we investigate everybody, consider everybody a suspect in every crime the entire time. They don't want the jury. That is a Commonwealth mistake that the defense is exploiting by telling everybody.
So again, you believe this is going to help the defense, the mystery surrounding these mystery men in black who show up and are questioning her.
But let's get back to the Moore point there, but she lied. Let's take the takeaway here, which is
she lied.
She lied, and you cannot mix that up. It is. I agree with you. We don't know to whom she lied.
And did she own it?
She definitely lied, and she couldn't own it. Because she's like, Alan Jackson said, did you lie?
Does that undermine all her testimony about the confession, about the cracked tail light, about Karen Reed's demeanor?
See, I like her demeanor. I like her attire. I like the way she's keeping her eyes open. I like the way she's focusing on.
So is the jury these men in black?
The men in black, you're talking Tommy Lee Jones, right?
Well, yeah, I think so.
So the jury has got to be able to decide and disseminate the difference in her. Why is she lying? If they say she's lying because she's a bad person and she's covering up, it's going to be wonderful for the defense. If they think she's lying because she's afraid she's going to get hurt or was hurt, not going to be so bad. It just depends.
For me, the rule of thumb should be like,
tell the truth.
The jury is here to figure out what happened.
Yes, just tell the truth.
The truth. The truth. That's what justice is the truth. And that was not justice right there, because it's the court imposing limitations on the jury hearing the truth in something that, like, I don't know, it makes everything clearer for the jury. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk about Turtle Boy. Turtle Boy was brought into court today. They're trying to revoke his bond. He's facing witness intimidation charges. They say he violated the conditions of his bond. We'll show you what happened, and we will break it down next.
Mr. Kinney, please stand up. You're walking on kind of thin ice. I'm going to review everything, and I'll come out with an order. But I take what Mr. Cosgrove has presented very seriously. I also take into account that there are certain First Amendment rights here as well. And then the issue is always, how far does the First Amendment take you, and when does it become intimidation of a witness? The word revenge, some of those other words that are on that tape are getting very, very close. So I'll take it all under advisement. Let me just see the lawyers at sidebar for a minute.
Okay, that's Aidan Kearney, also known as Turtle Boy, the man who's really behind the Free Karen Reed movement. It was him who sort of got everyone together, informed everyone about things he was finding in the paper, in the court papers, and really started this movement. And he's being prosecuted for witness intimidation. Those are the allegations. He was in court because prosecutors want to revoke his bond. They're saying that he is violating the conditions of that by threatening one of the investigators in the case, Tully. So I want to play for you some of what prosecutors said today during this hearing and some of what the defense said during this hearing, and then we'll talk about it.
No contact, direct or indirect, through third parties with any of the witnesses or victims in this case. And 2, stay 100 yards away from any victim's residence or place of work. Defendant dissents, bail warning read. What we have here, Your Honor, is the most extreme recent example of Mr. Kearney's behavior. And if I wanted to bring these to the court's attention, I could probably do it about 4 times a week. Constant defamation, for example, of Jennifer McCabe as a murderer, and he has described the others as murderers. And in general, he is aware and has remarked I think this is another thing I brought to Your Honor's attention the last time, has remarked with satisfaction that the results of his broadcasts have made it difficult for these people to go out in public without being harassed.
Mr. Bradle, tell me about that word revenge and how am I supposed to interpret that?
Judge, this is not a threat. This is not contact. This is satire. This is all protected. I am so sick of having to come before a court because of Norfolk County and talk about speech that Norfolk County
Argue to
doesn't
me,
like.
not to anybody else. Just tell me about that word revenge.
Why do we keep having to come back here? I don't know what it must be like to wake up on the wrong side of the First Amendment every day. This is protected speech, Your Honor, over and over again. The Supreme Court has spoken for decades and decades. Brandenburg, Watts, Chaplinsky, O'Brien v. Borowski, Welch. Judge, this is a waste of this court's time. This is intentional infliction of emotional distress on my client. He is not contacting a witness. He is not threatening a witness. He is talking about someone who has destroyed his life, Your Honor. He is allowed to lash out back. And the First Amendment grants every declarant this room to talk without fear, without the kind of fear that this county has inflicted on Mr. Carney over and over and over again.
Okay, so if he's wishing something to happen to Tully, the investigator who's gone after him, is that a violation of his conditions of bond? Is that witness intimidation? Is that contacting a witness? What is it? Is it someone expressing their desires for what they hope would happen?
This gentleman is one of the best anti-heroes for civil rights and civil liberties that I can imagine. He is a disaster that is standing on the thin one leg that Mr. Bradle is talking about, freedom of speech, because the judge has got him. He is saying things that clearly and unabashedly violate the terms of his bond conditions.
What do you mean?
He is saying things that he knows or should know are going to induce the prohibited contact and conduct from his third-party listeners. Now, he gets to hide behind the First Amendment beautifully. He toes the line.
So you're saying he's inciting violence?
There's an interesting compromise. You don't get mad, you get even. If I were on the bench, I would not revoke his bond because that's subject to being appealed. What I would do is I'd find him in contempt and incarcerate him because he's in contempt of my court order. Don't get mad, get even.
No, but I think what happened is that he reset the court hearing for June. And so he just kind of put him out there and let him hang himself because he's going to continue to say things.
Right, but let's just go back historically. All those Supreme Court cases he's throwing out there, some of them involve speech that we don't like.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
It's like the KKK.
The content.
Right?
Correct.
And we cannot restrain citizens from speaking their thoughts, their opinions. If he's defaming someone, that's not even criminal. Like, the person he's defaming can take him to court and sue him civilly.
And exactly, you have the right to say lots of things, but you're also still accountable for the impact of your words. So you can have a freedom of speech that has been limited by another order.
Okay, wait.
Intimidation.
But now think about it this way. All these people that say all these bad things about our president, and then someone tries to take out the president, are you going to bring those people in too?
Lots of people are trying, and you can.
Yes,
You
okay.
really?
You're inciting violence.
I haven't seen it.
It's here.
I haven't seen it.
It's here and now. It's intimidation. Whether or not...
Wait, who's he intimidating?
He's intimidating the detective.
When you watch the entirety of that hearing, you'll see that Mr. Bradle artfully acknowledges the fighting words that Turtle Boy specifically avoids. Turtle Boy is not dumb.
No, he was a teacher.
He's absolutely not dumb. He knows the line. He's researched the line. He's been told about the line. If he steps into certain words, such as those statutorily or common law defined as fighting words, totally different thing. He hasn't gone there. He said revenge, which is, as the judge noted, real close.
And the type of speech we're talking about here which has become sort of the foundation of what Turtle Boy and the Free Karen Read movement is, they believe the government has overstepped their bounds.
Absolutely.
They believe the government is not acting lawfully. So isn't the government skating on thin ice when they're being accused of wrongfully prosecuting someone, and then they're trying to shut down the people who are saying it out loud, and the people who are protesting
Are we going to talk about prosecutorial immunity? Because you can't sue them for basically anything.
Right.
It's, as I said, don't get mad, get even. The government has got to produce the evidence. The government is going to go after who they believe is wrong. Now, can they be stopped? Perhaps, but I think the judge is in a position where the detective has got to be protected as well, and he's being intimidated by Turtle Boy, because Turtle Boy is not talking to him. He's talking to the entire audience that he hopes is larger than life.
Which is inciting things, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, but I have a suspicion as the Karen Read trial goes on, more stuff's going to occur. Mark my words.
And when they get a free swing at Mr. Turtle Boy, I don't know a judge in the nation that wouldn't swing for beyond the fences.
Right. All right.
Yogi Bear said, and ain't over till
Thank
it's
you so
over.
much, Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer. Great to have you here. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates the brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students. It will be the biggest trial of 2025, and tonight, new details revealed by the father of one of the victims.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV. Critics and audiences are obsessed.
Would you say that you're sane or insane?
With the new season of Interview with a Killer.
I honestly don't know.
Interview with a Killer. All new episode this Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
Watch.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. New details connected to Virginia Giuffre, one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims who died by suicide. A handwritten note that was left by her regarding a protest that took place yesterday. Mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers need to show the battle lines are drawn and stand together to fight for the future of victims. Is protesting the answer? I don't know, but we've got to start somewhere. Doesn't sound like someone who's about to take their own life. Also, I want to go back in time, December 10th, 2019, on X, she posted, "I am making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. If something happens to me, in the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me to protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quieted." So that continues. We'll keep an eye on it. Right now, please take a look at the screen. We have a missing child who needs your help tonight. This is Arianna, Rudy, Duenas, Romo. Arianna, just 16 years old, missing from Buckeye, Arizona. If you see Arianna, pick up the phone, make the call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or the Buckeye Police Department in Arizona. Numbers on the screen right now. Don't go anywhere, folks. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.